Huh? What are you doing in my swamp?
Hello everybody, this is Ogreborn. I'm going to be doing my review for the 2022 show, The Santa Clauses. So this show just finished airing its last episode on Disney Plus today. So I thought I'd go ahead and do a review for it, because I've watched it each week since it premiered. And I had, before the first episode premiered, I had reviewed all 3 Santa Claus movies, so I thought I'd go ahead and do this, and then later on in the week or next week I'm going to do a ranking of all 4 movies and this show. But so in this one, after nearly 3 decades of being Santa Claus, Scott Calvin is beginning to have problems with his magic, and he's kind of losing the spirit of Christmas, and decides to retire as Santa and spend time with his family and stuff. And he's looking for a good suitor and someone to take over being Santa. This show is pretty good. I really enjoyed it quite a bit. I liked it a lot more than I expected I would, and I figured I would probably like it because I am a pretty big fan of the Santa Claus franchise. Like I said, it's my favorite Christmas franchise, and everything. I love the first 2 movies. The third one I didn't like very much. This show actually kind of redeems the third one in a lot of ways. And a lot of the things I had issues with that movie, this show actually kind of fixed. So, and it also added more lore and mythology to the Santa Claus story, and I love that, and everything. I felt this was actually one of the most satisfying shows of the year for me, because it worked. There were some things that I didn't like. I kind of wish they could have done a little bit more with Mrs. Claus and stuff, and Charlie was barely in here. He's only in 1 episode, and Bernard's only in 1 episode. I wish that they could have been in here a little bit more. I understand why they weren't, though, because in the context of the story, it really wouldn't have made sense to keep them throughout the whole show and everything. But I do wish that Bernard could have at least been in maybe 1 more episode, because he's only in 1 they're both only in 1 episode. I wish they would have at least been in the season finale, or series finale, or whatever, because I think this is a miniseries. But I will say Tim Allen is once again excellent as Scott Calvin. I don't think he's quite as good in this one as he was in the first 2 movies and everything, but I still think he was really good as Scott Calvin and did a great job in here. Disney screwed him on the Lightyear movie earlier this year, but at least they gave him this show to make up for it. Now I feel like this show was more worth it. And I always kind of had a little bit of a bad taste in my mouth because being disappointed with Santa Claus 3, and I feel like this show really made up for it. Adding Bernard back in here and explaining why he wasn't in Santa Claus 3, it's not the very best explanation, but it makes sense. It's kind of a cliche explanation. It wasn't exactly what I expected, but it worked. I enjoyed it enough that it doesn't really bother me that bad that why they exclude him out of Santa Claus 3 now. The way the character is written in this, it makes sense and everything. I always hated how they just kind of didn't really acknowledge Bernard's absence in the third one. This one, it acknowledges why he was absent in it. I love that. And it was great seeing David Krumholtz back as Bernard, although seeing a really old version of Bernard was kind of weird. I mean, he's not really old because David Krumholtz isn't a really old actor, but you know what I mean, because he was a kid when he did the first one, or a teenager and everything. So seeing Bernard as an older man, middle-aged man, it's weird, but it makes sense in the context of the show too when you watch it. I think Elizabeth Mitchell was still pretty good as Mrs. Claus, and the little bit we got, Eric Lloyd, I almost forgot his name, as Charlie, and the little bit that we did get him in the 1 episode was pretty good. They added some new characters in here and new lore to the story that I thought was awesome. I don't want to go too much into details because I do want to keep this as spoiler free as I can, but they added some lore to the Santa Clauses, and and stuff that I think makes the movies even better and everything. I almost kind of wish that we would get a prequel about some of the stuff that happens in this and everything. Do a prequel show to see what it was like before Scott Calvin became Santa, but at the same time I'm also like, I kind of don't want that at the same time. But I felt like this was a good new addition to the series. I kind of hope we get either one more movie or get another season of the show to kind of give us a proper finale to the franchise. But I think if this is the ending of the franchise, it is a much better and satisfying ending than the Santa Claus 3 was. And it really made up for it. And like I said, it made all three movies a little bit better. It just added to the story perfectly, and I really enjoyed it. Like I said, it's one of the biggest surprises of the year. I figured I would enjoy it, but I didn't think it was going to be as good as it was, and everything. So I'd go as far to say that for right now, I've only watched the series once, but for right now, I'm going to give it an 8 out of 10. I really enjoyed it. There are some things I didn't like. Like I said, some of the stuff with Mrs. Claus and the whole Cal Penn's character that takes over Santa. I didn't really like him, but you're not really supposed to like him through it and everything. But I did like how his character arc ended and stuff too. And I thought this was a good family show, and it's a good sequel series to the Santa Claus trilogy and everything. I think if they were going to continue it, this is a decent way to do it. Although I do feel like it was a little slow when some of the episodes was kind of slow. There was like 1 or 2 filler episodes. They could have just edited those episodes down a little bit and had this as a series, or instead of having it as a series, have it as a movie. It would have been even better. But for what it is, I think it's still a really entertaining show, and I really enjoyed it. I love how it expanded the Santa Claus universe and everything, and was still respectful to that trilogy. So yeah, so I'd say I'd give the Santa Clauses an 8 out of 10 for sure. So anyway, let me know in the comments what you think of this show, and I hope you enjoyed this video, and have a good day, everybody.
Hee